all the intro shit anyway. Half of our videos, the start is it on? I think it's on. Is it on? Or the light's blinking? How can you tell? Well, I'm looking at the light and it's not blinking. Okay, well, so yeah, the first 10 minutes of every single one of our interviews, is the fucking camera on?
It's every band recording, if you're doing band rehearsals. Is it recording? It's at the beginning of every single band recording you ever do.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think it's on now.
You think it's on now? Please check. Please, just for me, just check.
5 seconds, 6,
Yes.
7.
Okay, it's on. Alright. Your name, my friend?
Paul Fjelrad. Although, Fjelrad's not actually my name.
Okay. There must be a story behind this, which I'm now intrigued by.
My whole life is... There were a series of incidents, is a phrase you'll hear many times. My original surname was Mountjoy.
Okay. Very West Country?
Very, very West Country. It's Mountjoy, peasant, whatever. Yeah. And I married a Danish girl. I don't like my family. Did not like my name. So when she said, "Oh yeah, I'm going to become Fjelrad Mountjoy," I went, "No, fucking not. Let's toss a coin." So we were walking along past the canal in Guildford, and we tossed a coin, and then depending on your perspective, I either won or lost. And I became Fjelrad. Amusingly, I couldn't pronounce it in Danish, which is actually Fjelrad. Right. And not only that, guess what it means? Which I found out on my wedding day.
Oh God, what does it mean?
Mount Fear. So I went from Mountjoy to Mount Fear.
Okay.
And I answer to, Paul Confused Pause. A nurse walks out into the doctor's waiting room and says, "Paul." And I go, "That's me."
Fair enough, fair enough. I often answer the phone to, "Is that Alexander Knig? Is that Alexander?"
Tell me about it.
Yeah, you have the same problem.
Yes, I start off straight away. Foxtrot Juliet, Echo Lima, Romeo Alpha.
That's pretty much exactly what I do as well. I think my favourite one I ever heard for you was someone answer, "Is that Lisa Matchstick?" No.
They even confused my first name with my last name, so...
Yeah, they thought your surname was Lisa. Yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah, nobody can write my name down without instantly thinking that must be spelt wrong, and then coming up with inventive spellings of it.
Yes.
Sveldvad
I get that
was
as well.
the best. Apparently I'm Transylvanian.
You file your teeth down, you've got that going for you.
I digress. Yes, Paul Fjelrad.
So why don't you tell us a bit about your boat? This is your boat. There we are on your boat.
So, Maid of Wyvern was copied off a 1920s Borley in the little village of Wivenhoe by the local doctor, Dr. Walter Radcliffe. All 10 of his other designs are in the National Maritime Museum, and this one isn't, but he designed it for his friend Lewis Warse, who ran the local canning factory, and the guy spent 3 years building it on the quayside in Wivenhoe. And then he and his son John would go fishing on weekends, and I've got a lovely little painting of her back in the early 50s.
Yes, in fact we'll take a picture of that and we can put that on as well. That's
I've got a lovely photo of it.
Yeah.
And then over the years she has changed, so she became sloop in 1963,
Well, she was originally a cutter.
Yes, so originally she was like this.
Yes, yeah. So you brought her back to.
So
her
with the great big
yeah.
bowsprit and gaff cutter and all that, but John, the son of Lewis, converted it to a sloop so he could single-hand her. She then got sold to a local shipwright and surveyor who worked on her when he was a boy. He bought her, and then it passed on to another couple who took her down into the Med, brought her back, and I found her in Portchester. She was sat in a mud berth and had been pretty much sat there for 3 years. And I knew that if I was going to take her on, it was going to be to convert her back to her original glory, as it were.
Which you should be.
Yeah, so I spent a year spending far more money than it actually cost me to buy the boat.
I know that feeling.
At the historic Underfall Yard in Bristol. I had the sail plan and the spars and all of that redesigned, all new electrics, a lot of sort of structural work to make sure that she was good to pass on to her 100th birthday. Yeah. And then I moved on to her about, basically just straight after the restoration, really. Been down to the Med with her, brought her back. And the aim, when the world stops going insane and 2 of the 4 horsemen stop stalking the fucking land, is to do a 2-year circumnavigation. She has already been across the Atlantic.
I was just going to say, I
taken
think
part in the Antigua Classics and all that sort of stuff. She won the Spirit of the Ark award, so I've got all her little awards and labels and stuff down there. It's a little piece of nautical history.
It is, and I can personally vouch that inside, as your great quote from the other day is that they should be floating time machines.
Yes.
And I can personally vouch for that.
I can't claim that one. That's Luke Powell again.
That's Luke Powell. There we go. A good man, Luke Powell. But I both me and you admired it fantastically when we came over the other day. It's an absolutely stunning boat inside.
Yeah.
And outside.
And she is my little safe place, my sanctuary, my antidote to all things in the technology world when I'm stupid enough to be working in that industry.
And speaking of antidote, in fact, during quarantine, you've been up the liner for a month at a time.
I'd planned to go up there anyway and get away from everything, and I got out there, and then all of a sudden the world went stop. So yeah, I've been up there pretty much ever since until coming down here to get some. Once the sailing was allowed, to get some repairs done, and I'm going straight back up there after this.
Yes. So this is your last day, in fact, isn't it? You're off tomorrow. Yeah.
Yes. And I'm all set up. I think I can disappear away and not come back into harbour for the next couple of months, when hopefully the world is slightly less insane.
Even better. Life anchoring. So we got to ask you what your favourite or your funniest or whichever sailing story you want to tell, because again, I can personally vouch that I'm a big fan of the Paul Fjelrad sailing stories.
Well, let's try this one, and then you can decide.
That already fills me with such great anticipation.
Yeah, as I said before, there were a series of incidents. Some years ago, around about 2011, decided I'd had enough of being a technology consultant and living in London and a life of excess and self-destruction that I was currently engaged in. So I told everybody, fuck this for a game of soldiers, I'm selling everything, quitting my job, and I'm going to go sailing. And they said, for how long? And I said, when I'll see what happens first. I'll either run out of oceans or run out of money. They all thought I was mad, which, to be fair, was not that far off the truth. So I had an apartment in Camden, I had a house in South Staffs, property in Bulgaria. I sold absolutely fucking everything. What I couldn't sell, I chucked in the bin, and I left the UK with 2 bags and a guitar, which seems to be a reoccurring theme in my life.
Is that the same guitar?
No. You'll see what happens.
Ah, okay, interesting.
So I went down to Gibraltar. I signed up with the sailing school. I was going to do the yachtmaster thing, and I was going to buy a boat, and then I was going to fuck off. In the midst of all of this, I got fed up with the school and the people and Gibraltar generally. One thing about Gibraltar, imagine Manchester on a wet Thursday afternoon, pick it up, maybe a Manchester council estate, nail it to the bottom of Spain, and then combine it with all the worst aspects of the Spanish and the English.
You're not selling it to me.
No. I frequently said about Gibraltar, Gibraltar is proof positive you should never let the military build anything unless you're going to shoot at it.
It's begun.
Yes. The only point, as somebody told me, the only point to come in Gibraltar is to sail out of it. So the only reason to go to Gibraltar is to leave. Which
It's a nice landmark.
which I thought was absolutely fucking perfect. I mean, they went through a beautification project at the moment, which is throwing glitter on a dog turd. Yeah, I can't stand the place. It's a lovely place to sail, and the sailors. It is interesting that there's not a single Gibraltarian involved in the sailing endeavours in Gibraltar. It's all Brits.
It's
who've
funny
come
you say
over.
that. I know that I went to university with a Gibraltar lad, and he said the exact same thing when I was talking about my love for boats and stuff, and he couldn't have cared less.
Yeah.
And I was just sort of saying, don't you take advantage of that? And he said, I've never been on a
Yeah.
yacht, and I will never be on a yacht.
I met a Gibraltarian sailor when he pitched up in Ceuta, which is Spanish Morocco, across the straits. And I said, "All right, you know, sink landing." I said, "I don't see too many Gibraltarians sailing." He said, "Oh yeah, I love my sailing boat. Do you know if I put my sails up while I'm motoring, I can get an extra knot?"
Right.
And I thought, I'm going to leave now.
As I say, so the definition of sailing being applied fast and loose. there.
So there I am, in the midst of all of this, and then I get fed up, so I go and help out with the delivery in the Dominican Republic. A series of incidents ensues.
They do, I know that story.
Yes, which ends up with me in the newspaper and God knows what else, and my first Mayday experience. And then I pitch back up in Gibraltar. And I say to the school, right, can I continue on and do the second half of my course, get my yacht master exam, do my cruising instructor, do some deliveries, and then I'm going to fuck off with my boat. Which at that time was still in the Dominican Republic. They said, oh yeah, but I had a period of time to wait for it. And I had shitloads of miles. I've been sailing since I was 5, so, you know, proper salt in the veins type person.
Right.
My first memory started on the sea, and I'm fairly sure my
I just
fucking
want to say
last
that
one will
covered
be.
our question with how did you get into sailing
gonna say,
as
it's not
well.
come
I'll come back to that. So I say to them, well, you know, I want to just carry on sailing. So they said, oh, there's a bunch of students going out to Portugal doing a mile builder. You can crew. I need an extra body, so I sign up. I very rapidly begin to regret this particular decision because the skipper is a complete and utter arsehole, and the
On the yacht?
atmosphere on the boat was toxic. Nobody was talking to each other, and in particular the skipper and this Estonian girl. So she's doing her training to become a yacht master, and there's 2 18-year-old kids who are clearly, you know, mummy and daddy have paid for them to go and get a yacht master.
Yeah, the yuppies on a gap year.
Yeah. So
I know a few of them.
I nearly get off the boat in Lagos at the end of the Algarve because this guy, his wife's become sick, he needs somebody to help him out, and I'm about to phone the school up and say, cheers.
Cheers.
I'm about to phone the school up and say, sod this for a like, I'm not sailing back with these knobheads. I'll help this guy get his boat back.
Apologise for that.
Yes, so I, where am I at?
You didn't want to go back with the knobheads.
Yes, so I signed up for this mile builder, waiting for my course to start. The atmosphere on the boat is toxic, the skipper's a knobhead, he's not getting on with the students, they're not talking to each other about anything, and I want to get off. So I nearly did in Lagos, but because I think I'm just going to annoy the school, I think, oh, I'll stay on the boat. And we sail from Lagos to Ayamonte, one of the kids being skipper of the day. It's a complete fucking waste of time because they haven't got a clue what they're doing. And we pitch up in Ayamonte, I get away from everybody. Again, I'm thinking, oh God, I'll just get a taxi back, just screw this. But the Estonian girl says to, you know, comes out for a drink with me, and she's like, you know, stay with me, and you know, I can't deal with this skipper, Charlie. So her next passage is to go from Ayamonte to Gib.
Right.
Right? So in through the straits, and she's worked out all the passage plan. And what you're supposed to do is skipper the day is you go, well, here's my plan, I'll talk everybody through it, here's the charts, and like you're doing a skipper briefing.
Right.
Yeah. And literally everybody's ignoring her. Charlie just walks out of the thing and goes and sits up in the cockpit and has a smoke, and she's like, are you going to check my plan? I'll leave it here on the chart table. And here's where the mistake started. It took me quite a while to work out whether clearly I was not in charge, so I did not cause the incident that occurred, but I did not stop it happening.
Right.
So it's the middle of the night, it's going to be a night passage because we've got to get the tidal window to go through the straits.
So the tides run pretty fast down there.
As you come out of Ayamonte, down the Rio Guadalquivir, there is a South Cardinal. And her passage plan goes out to the South Cardinal and basically swings to port, sets out across the Bay of Cadiz to go for the Straits.
Right.
All fine and dandy so far. And then Charlie is like, there's plenty of wind, we should get sailing. And Kadri's like, okay, we'll get sailing. Turn the engine off. And she's like, well, now hang on. And she yells at Paul, would you come take the wheel? So I pop up. I'm not on watch. And it's dark. I can just see the South Cardinal there. And I think to myself, oh, fucking hell. And my brain switches off. Big mistake. Excuse me. So
You are excused.
I turn the engine off. But they're still faffing around with the sails. And if you imagine two people up on deck trying to sort something out, not communicating, it's not a rapid way to get the boat sailing.
No.
So the sails are all over the fucking place, the engine's off, and inevitably, a thing called tide and some wind and so on is now blowing us in a northerly direction.
Right.
And there is just this moment where I'm sat there on the wheel thinking, oh God, can I just go to bed? And I look round and go, there's that South Cardinal, which is to the south of us. Uh-oh. And I turn round like this, and then all of a sudden there is the world's biggest crunch. The wheel rips out of my hands, spins madly, the whole boat rears away like this, and heels over onto its side, nearly throwing them two into the drink. I grab hold of the wheel, try and straighten it up, and there's nothing on the wheel, like no tension or anything. I get the engine up and running. The boat points in roughly the right direction. I give the engine a huge gun, and there's just crunching noises. Just a rending of metal and GRP.
Yeah.
We're going nowhere. And there's a whole bunch of rocks around that particular Cardinal, and we've just landed right onto it.
Ouch.
At which point, we get back into the cockpit. Charlie tries to get it off with the engine. Yeah, it's just, you can just hear grinding. And at which point I look down into the saloon, and there is water flooding into the saloon, and the floorboards are now starting to float.
Yeah.
Now, as it turns out, I discover later, at this point we have essentially no keel, no rudder, and a fucking great big hole in the hull, which have been ripped off. We are on these rocks, and the waves are coming in, and they're lifting the boat up and just smashing it down onto the rocks.
Now keel this.
Yeah. So I yell to Charlie, we're sinking. He runs down, does a sensible thing, gets onto the VHF, channel 16, mayday, mayday, mayday. I go down and get the kids who are asleep, bring them up, get jackets onto them, get life jackets onto them.
They're still asleep?
Yeah, it's amazing how much 18-year-olds can sleep through fucking anything.
I was going to say, that's very impressive.
Wow.
They had literally slept through all of this thing.
I'm woken up on our boat at 2 o'clock in the morning by the cat outside going like this with a line.
Yeah.
That wakes me up. So the fact they slept
We've
through,
just punched a hole through
they
the
slept
boat.
through a grounding and a sinking is very impressive.
So now, if you can imagine, if I get them up and get them sat up, because the boat is now heeling over like more and more and more like this. So I'm getting them up onto the high side, and I'm getting them into their jackets, and literally I can see this look in their face. Of just their eyes are like this.
They haven't stopped.
pale.
Blinking
like,
is out of the question.
shock. right? So get them up there, make sure that they're warm. Kadri, the Estonian girl, just goes into shutdown.
Yeah.
And she's sat up on the side.
Yeah. Trauma shutdown.
Yeah. Charlie's getting age like he's got hold of somebody, they're going to send a lifeboat out. And I'm looking around thinking, really? Surrounded by fucking rocks. But, all right. So we've got that. They told us they're on the way. I'm going down and thinking, right, they're going to lift us off. Right, passports. Go down and get the passports. Wallets. Where are your wallets? The boat is now pretty much on its side. And every so often it's still being lifted up. It's sort of juddering, thing like that. And just every so often the boat goes, whoop, and then whoop, like this. And I'm thinking, this is seriously fucking unstable. It's getting torn apart underneath us. Yeah. I have pictures, and literally now, I'm now going down into this thing, and half of the saloon is now full of water. But I've got all of their gear, I've got my stuff, I've got shoes on them, and I'm literally having to put things on them because
they're in shock. Yeah.
So I go down and I get hold of Charlie, and I see him unpacking the flares. I'm like, what are you doing, Charlie? He said, well, just in case. I said, oh, okay, let's just put them down there. There's fishing boats all around there. They've stopped, they're having a look, they're shining lights over.
Yeah.
Like fishermen, they're sort of along the lines of, hey, look at this crap.
Yeah. As fishermen do.
This little Bavaria 36 basically just getting munched.
Yeah, we've got a good story about the radio chatter from fishermen when we were in trouble. We know the story.
Yeah.
Yeah, we know the attitude.
So then we get it through on the VHF. We're sending a helicopter, you're going to get lifted. And I thought, yeah, okay, there's no way. And Charlie's like, what do you mean? He's like, well, we can't get to you. You're surrounded by rocks. We worked out exactly where you are. I mean, he's done that. Yeah, the emergency signal and everything. What I discovered at this particular point, because you do the survival training, and I've been through one Mayday already. Literally a month hasn't gone by and I'm in a second one.
Were you wearing the same shorts?
I was wearing the same shorts.
There we go.
Yeah. It's my lucky shorts.
If that's those you're wearing now, I'm getting off the boat.
No. Charlie then goes, well, we're getting lifted. And he said, yeah. Oh, I'll go and get my stuff. Charlie, you know the rules. None of your stuff is coming off this boat. Disappears down below. He comes back. He's got his sailing leggings on. He's got his boots on. He's got his shagging on. And he looks like the fucking Michelin Man. And I can see he's got all of his stuff, like
packed
his laptop, plugged down the front of this, and clothes in his legs, and
that's all very important.
I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to start a thing with you. Which one is like, what the big danger is, the risky thing is knowing when to do nothing. And he couldn't just sit there and wait.
Panic reaction.
So he's like, well, we better launch the life raft. Sorry, Charlie? Well, we've got to put the life raft out. I said, right, Charlie, right, see the big pointy rocks down there? You're going to get into the rubber coffin and chuck it into where all the sharpy spiky things are. I said, let me explain this to you. Right, see there, no rocks. Right, if this thing becomes really untenable, we've got our life jackets on, we're going in the fucking drink. And we are going to swim. So, point the other window. The land is over. I could almost walk. We are going to jump in. We're going to get together, and we're just going to kick over there. Are we clear? Because we're not. No life raft. Oh no.
But wrapping yourself in a rubber shroud, wouldn't it?
Yeah. This isn't enough danger. I'm fairly sure there is a way that I can really make.
What I really need to do is make sure we all die.
So he sits down for a minute, and then he's. Well, they haven't turned up. I think we should launch a flare. Do you remember the training? You know that the helicopter could be in sight. They see flares going off. They're going to turn around and fuck off back to the airport. Yeah.
Also, you see 10 metres away that fishing boat that's looking at us laughing. You see that? You don't need a flare.
Now, he would not accept this. He goes on again about, well, just in case we should have the life raft. So I gently pulled him over, very quietly said, in about 2 seconds, I'm going to knock you the fuck out. We are not doing anything. Sit down, shut up, just wait. And it was the weirdest thing. It was like a switch went off in his head. all of a sudden to him, he was no longer in charge.
Relief, almost?
And just like everybody else, I watched his pupils just expand out and the blood drained from his face. And then he sat down, looked away, and he went silent.
Catatonic, kind of.
He did not say another thing until we were in the airport. In fact, until we were at the other end of the train station once we got out. And I'm looking at them all and I'm thinking, cool, I've got 4 zombies here. And then there's me who's still with it. Right. Radio goes, I go down and they're saying, right, we're going to be over you in a little bit. We can see you. Get your sails down. And I look at them and I think, right, okay. Darling, slightly back. So after the second time that Charlie had suggested launching the life raft, and considering that you may have this thing, but despite the way I look, and the fact that I can be quite intense sometimes, with a sort of 1,000-watt stare and tattoos, and I've not been in a fight since I was 14. Now, I'm not a violent person.
I was going to say, that's quite a good long period of time.
Yeah, but this guy, like I said, very quietly pulling him up to me and explaining that I was going to knock him the fuck out if he didn't shut up about life rafts and flares in the situation and sit down and wait. And as I say, then at that moment, it was like a switch went off in his brain. I'm no longer in charge. Clearly you're in charge, and his pupils just went...
That's when catatonia kicked in.
Pale face, and he was gone. So the VHF goes off, and the helicopter crew basically said, yeah, you're in sight, go and get your sails down. And I look around at everybody, I've got 4 zombies. And Charlie very distinctly looking away from me, and I think, right everyone, I'm going to go and get the sails down on a boat that is literally like this now. Big waves fucking everywhere and they're sort of getting smashed around. I think, oh, this is fun.
Isn't that technically pulling the sails out of the sea?
And I do just think, I'm just going to let these bloody things off and just drag them down and just dump them in the water.
Sensible.
So I get up there and I release all of the halyards and then yank all of the bloody sails down and then crawl my way back, get onto the VHF and say, right, the sails are down. And you know the drill. They're going to come over, they're going to drop the line down, get hold of the line, pull it up. I had a bucket ready, just pull the line in a bucket. And then
don't attach it to the boat.
Don't attach it to the boat. Don't attach it to the boat. And you can't, by the way, it's dead right. If you've not had the experience of being lifted off, which I hope you haven't, you cannot hear a fucking thing when that thing's over the top of you.
My father's a helicopter pilot. I grew up on airfields, so trust me, the reason I'm deaf in my left ear is exactly that.
So they pull away like this, and they lower the guy down, and down he comes, and you see the little line coming down which dips down into the water, and then basically you pull him over to you, and the guy gets on there and he says, right, who's in charge? And I said, well, I guess it's me. That's the skipper. And he said, all right, fair enough. He said, he looks at them and goes, I'll get the 2 youngsters up. And he gets them sorted. Up they go, goes through the whole process. Next thing, it's the Estonian girl and Charlie. They go up. It's just me and the guy on the boat. And I went, I shouldn't be on this fucking boat. Why did I not get off this boat? What? And I thought, yeah, if I did get off this boat, they're most likely all fucking dead. And I get lifted up with the guy, and as we disappear away, I can just see this boat is just getting ripped to shreds. Takes us over to Jerez. Go into a little room, and I'm sitting there, and we're all sort of like naughty school kids.
Yeah. Stare at your shoes.
We've been bad. And he comes in. And I say, what do we need to do? Do we need to sign anything? Is there a process? He said, do not do it again. And then walks away. And I'm like, excuse me, bus station? He said, oh yeah, that way. And off. 4 people. It's amazing how there's 5 of us and how much we could, literally the space between each of us was monumental. We might as well have been on different planets. So I ring round, I get us hotel rooms, I get hold of the school. He says he's going to come out with a boat and try and tow it off the rocks. As it turned out, because it was in the local newspaper, the boat was discovered the next morning, 3 miles down the coast, with no mast, not much of a deck, a hole in the bottom like about this, no keel, no rudder. It has literally been shredded.
Yeah. It's scrap fiberglass at this point.
Now the thing is, I am now, because obviously we get on the train and I pitch up in Gibraltar, the only things I own in the world are a pair of shorts, no pants, a t-shirt, my sailing jacket, my sunglasses, my sailing knife, my passport, my wallet.
That's not a
Shoes.
bad collection.
And nothing else in the world. Because my only possessions was that guitar and 2 bags. Now, I was gutted because in that bag was the only photos I had of my daughter. And I'd not been in contact with my daughter for 13 years. Not by choice.
This is Natasha.
Yes. She had not come back into my life at this particular point. And that was hard. That was really hard. It was like I'd lost her all over again. But a thing occurred to me. I own literally nothing. And life doesn't stop. So if you're ever attached to a possession, you suddenly realise how none of it means a fucking thing. And that in a grand scheme of things and compared with your life and your health, it is literally meaningless shite. And I found that liberating. At that point, I mean, I had to go and buy myself another guitar and, you know, some clothes.
Yes. Pants specifically.
Yes, pants. And the fact that I'm walking through the town in Gibraltar with no shoes, because, you know, I haven't even got a pair of fucking flip-flops. Got my lucky shorts, though.
I mean, you kept those, yeah? Slightly brown, I imagine, after that experience. But
And at which point, I had to do a bit of soul searching. Of, you know, is this game for me? I've had 2 Maydays in 2 months. And I will give great thanks to a legend in sailing, Tony Gibraltar, who sadly passed away now, but was a real mentor to me in the fact that I sat down with him and said, Tony, I need you to go through this with you. What did I do? And we walked through the whole bloody thing step by step. And he said, you did all the things you were meant to do. Yes, you didn't. You let somebody else put you in danger. He said, what you would have necessarily, but he said, yeah, you're probably right. If you went on that boat, then it's quite possible you had a bunch of corpses rather than these people coming back. I took 4 weeks off sailing before I decided whether I was going to go back, because in the way my head works, I needed to go through this thing step by step by step by step.
analytical.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to understand exactly how I was going to make sure that these things. And I said another thing, which is all the schools, though we don't talk about this, I went to every instructor and I told them the full story, and I said, use it. I used it all the time in my teaching. I told the other instructors, you know, some of them came to me and said, can I use this story with students? I said, do, because we need to make sure these things don't happen again. The school didn't like it. That's fine, because another school then offered me a job. First thing he did was sat down and asked the question. I've had this a couple of times where somebody, you know, the pilot got to review, the skipper, Debbie, said, oh yeah, I got this thing where I just Google the people's names, and yeah, BBC, Dominican Republic, here's a drink, do you want to tell me about it? And I went, oh, okay. So yeah, and of course I've then got to go through a yachtmaster exam with a guy who said, so, you've been through some things, and I went, don't worry, I'll tell you. So for a while I had to explain the whole story to people. Here's a funny thing though. Always think, if you're going to buy a boat, think about what the name of the boat sounds like during a Mayday. Right? Because
Very
these
sensible.
are the words that were used for the Mayday. Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. Chill out, chill out, chill out. The only thing that would have been slightly worse would have been, not really, not really, you know, or only joking.
Yeah.
For fuck's sake, don't call a boat, chill out. Mayday, mayday, mayday. Chill out, chill out, chill out. I think having a go argument.
Yeah, alright, we will then.
Yeah. So perhaps the laugh is in the tail. But yes, it's quite a bit of a legend thing down in Gibraltar. I was on Chill Out and was involved in the sinking of Chill Out.
Fair enough. I mean, there's the famous one about the, what was it, with there's a boat that they decided very funnily to name Flushing after the town in Holland. And they had to call in a mayday off Loo. So,
Flushing or flew? Flushing or flew?
quite. Yeah, so that's the very famous
Wait,
one. I,
that's
think I read that in
bad shit.
Confessions of a Yachtsman, I think. That was a good one.
Yeah.
Alright, well, speaking of traumatic experiences, you've written a book.
Yeah. It's not exactly holiday reading.
No. It's so having read the synopsis and having you have conversations where we've talked about your book and having read your new article you've just written for Messy Mind.
Yes.
Yes. I can imagine, and from what I am about to read, as you very kindly provided me with a copy to read, yes, as you say, not exactly sun lounger type stuff, but I'm very excited to read it. So why don't you tell us about it?
So in 2013, I had what I call in my book a descent into madness. It was triggered by the suicide attempt of my daughter, who had come back into my life at that particular time and was dealing with her own mental health issues, and it broke me. But what came out after that was things that I had kept hidden about myself, as many people do, and I was diagnosed with complex post-traumatic stress disorder. So for those who don't understand, post-traumatic stress, you have an event or period in your life that is so traumatic that your brain loses the ability to process it. And it gets itself into a cycle. It typically happens about 6 months after the event, when the brain basically ceases to be able to function properly. And we now understand that it alters body chemistry, because you are now in permanent fight or flight mode.
Yeah, this is the thing the squaddies found when they came.
Yes.
They came home, they tried to reintegrate, and as you say, about 6 months later, they realised they couldn't.
These aren't things that have happened to them, these are things that are happening.
Right.
They can then measure it inside of your body. There's a very famous book by a guy called Bessel van der Kolk, called The Body Keeps the Score, which was the original study of PTSD after the Vietnam War, when up until that point it was bizarrely called operational exhaustion.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so Bessel van der Kolk's book, The Body Keeps the Score, he understood that with the body in permanent fight or flight mode, you are basically overdosing on adrenaline. The chemistry of the body alters when you are in danger, and you are constantly surrounded by danger signals, which the brain just dismisses, only now it is no longer able to. And
That's your permanent state of mind.
Yeah. And they have, in that book, they have studied that people with PTSD have higher instances of cancer, leukemia, MS. It's basically wrecking the body because it is basically running on rocket fuel.
Yeah.
A thing it's only meant to do for a short period of time.
It's rather than nitrous, it's nitrous suddenly to the system, but all the time.
Well, when he was studying this, he discovered that some of the soldiers were of a different classification, and the same treatment things weren't working. And he discovered through this that there were two types of PTSD, regular PTSD and then this thing called complex. And what complex PTSD means is that you have had multiple continuous trauma throughout your life, typically layered on top of childhood abuse, neglect and trauma. And that is me. So even though that event was the last straw that sort of broke the camel's back, what then happened was I crumbled, and I found myself a therapist who is a trauma specialist and deals with, amazing man, deals with some of the worst things that people have been through and helps them find a way back. And I spent 3.5 years in, it was my job, that was more or less full time for me, to claw my way back. And once I had done this, then this thing started coming through my head of, triggered by me going to Highgate Cemetery and, Karl Marx's grave. And there was a headstone, Nuno de Avisado, a freedom fighter, poet, etc. And he had on his grave, I did what I could. Let those who can do more. So I've been told all the time, write a book. Your life is so weird, so full of incidents, some funny stuff, and particularly the way I talk about it. And I always thought, why? While the events that have happened to me in my life would be shocking to some people, if you're just writing it for that purpose, then it's essentially what? Trauma porn? I mean, what? You're putting it out there because what? People want to read about something horrible? What's the benefit? What would you get out of it?
Who's it for?
Yeah, and in actuality, the events of my life are mundane. Shockingly so. They are depressingly normal. They are depressingly common. So why would I write that? It's not. Then people would tell you that it's cathartic. My fucking arse is it.
I can vouch for that.
I just think what I read in your articles, the fact it's just very honest, and I think that is what many people will like about it.
As you say, no one's honest.
Yeah.
It takes an event like the one you described in the Messy Mind article, an event like that to think, maybe I should be honest about it.
Yeah.
And I think that's what people find refreshing.
Yeah, I mean, but even after that, there has to be a purpose. Then this headstone thing's bugging me. And then I think, we've all heard this thing, why didn't these people come forward? Somebody's been raped, why didn't they come forward for 20 years? Child has been abused, why didn't they come forward until the person is dying or dead? All the stuff that didn't come out about Salop, all that sort of stuff. And it's the fact that you can't. There's actually proven to be a biochemical process that goes on inside of your head that actually inhibits you from talking about it.
It's like the suppression of bad memories kind of thing.
Going on.
Right.
But I could talk about it. Not only that, I had the wherewithal financially to fund a book. I had the opportunity to do it. I had the words to be able to talk about it. And then it hit me. I can. Let those who can do more, and if I can, how can I not? Once that got in my head, it's then how. There I am fortunate in the fact that my daughter, because she and I sort of recovered together, she was a published author when she was 17, short stories. She has a voice that people appeal to. And I thought, if I'm sitting there writing about myself, then it's going to be very self-indulgent. It's only going to be my perspective. What if it was my daughter's voice telling the main story? But then, of course, my daughter too, because it's not going to be an easy thing for her to go through.
Sure.
Yeah, the idea that if you do therapy, these things don't hurt. Fuck off, they're horrible memories. Freud says that therapy is to take psychosis and neurosis and turn it into ordinary human misery. These things still hurt, they're still painful, they're still difficult to talk about. They will be. Obviously they will be. You don't suddenly become fucking zen about this thing. So this is going to be a trial to go through and tell my story.
Therapy is not Buddhism.
Yeah, the other thing out of it is up until the age of 12 I had a thing called dissociative amnesia, which I don't remember an awful lot of my own life, and it's very difficult for me to piece together a timeline. I had to research my own life up until that point.
With a traumatic experience like that, I'm not surprised. Intentionally, your mind forgets it. Yeah.
It hides it away. The memories actually don't get built properly.
Yeah.
So I had to do all of that.
Recently there was a medicine that developed to erase those bad memories on purpose.
Yeah, we talked about that.
We talked about that recently. We were sort of reading the article, and they developed a medicine that targets the area of the brain that carries the bad, negative memories.
Yeah.
And with a prolonged period of use can erase them. And not only do I think that's a terrible idea because it's essentially ignoring the problem.
Anyone who said that to me, I tell them to fuck right off.
I couldn't agree more.
That's me.
But
this is my life.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And that's what we said as well. So the only positive that came out of that was the joke Frank Skinner made, where he said, if you take those pills, essentially it's what Ronnie Wood's 20-year-old girlfriend calls the morning after pill.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it. But so I digress. My apologies.
So, then it's how do you tell it? If I started at the beginning of my life and went all the way through to the day in order, trust me, you wouldn't fucking get through it. I wouldn't get fucking through it. Then the headstone comes back to me. I did what I could. That's life one. That is me from birth up until my descent into madness, because the person that I was did what he could to survive. Then the second life. Let those who can do more. This is the point where I can actually become myself. Because CPTSD, quite commonly, you have no pre-trauma identity. You don't have a person to go back to. PTSD you do. You know, you can remember when you were all right. And you can hang on to that and you can reconstruct a lot of it. You'll still...
That's your anchor point.
Yeah. You still... It's an injury. You will carry scars. You are changed forever by this. The idea of healed or recovery is a little bit of a misnomer. You learn to adapt and overcome. And if you had a physical injury and you lost your leg, everyone would hold you in awe and say you're an inspiration because you have transcended that and now go off and live a full life despite having to adapt to this injury. Just because my injury is invisible, what they call the invisible illness,
Right.
it doesn't mean I don't have the same problem. There are things I can't do. There are things I will live with for the rest of my life, but you have to overcome those things and figure out how to transcend them. You can't see the literal scars. So then we had the structure, life one, life two, tell them in parallel, which is actually how therapy works.
Yeah.
You have to go back and reprocess and take it apart and create this new person. I am nothing like what I was, as the chapter Sex, Drugs and a Night in a Police Cell will show you.
This is the one you described to us
The person,
last time.
I mean, it's fucking horrible. The person I became was quite despicable.
But that was your coping mechanism.
That was, yeah, but I was addicted to self-destruction. I was...
But in a way, is that not also a coping mechanism?
Yeah, it was my way of dealing with it. I was trying to destroy myself. But that meant exposing something that lots of people will say, don't do it. Right under a pseudonym. Why? That's cowardice. For all the people who never got a chance, for all the people who are still hiding, I need to stand up and say, no, there's not something wrong with me. I reacted to what happened to me. Yeah. That's not you. You still own all of your actions. But I need to do it and stand up and go, no, I'm going to talk. And if that allows one other person to talk, to be inspired by that, then let them find words and anyone who ever says to me, by the way, all things happen for a reason, I will be deeply tempted to punch them in the face. I know that's inspiring to some people. Fine if it is. For me, fuck off. It didn't happen for a reason. I could not control where I was born. That was an accident of birth. My mother was a sociopath and my father was an evil fucking pedophile. You know, these are the things I could do nothing about. But what I could do, what I could gain control of, what I could do is right this point. So,
I'm just worried about our sound quality with those dickheads driving past on the road.
Yeah.
There's two.
that's another reason why I don't want to be in a marina.
Yeah, I was going to say
I can't blame you in the slightest.
If I may just borrow the camera momentarily, there is a group of knobheads on the beach over there who are wheeling a 50cc lawnmower up and down the... Yes, and all I can say is because they're not wearing a helmet, I hope they fall off.
Motorised hairdresser, yes.
Yes, precisely. Right? It's one of those moments where you realise our original 3.5 horsepower outboard had more power than that thing does.
Just remember this, right? The fuckwits are outbreeding us.
True, but I mean, this is my mother.
No, I'm not doing my bit, but you need to, right? 'Cause
my mother made a very good point earlier when I sent her a picture of the. I don't know if you saw the plethora of human scum that was here on this beach earlier. 12 plus jet skis who were going at absolute full revs past these small children swimming in the water within about 2 feet. And I sent a picture to my mum because she loathes jet skis and she's very funny. And so I thought I'd send her that picture, and she said, I'm just very glad to see they're not wearing protective equipment, because this, I hope, makes to the Darwin Awards.
Yes, the Darwin Awards. I love the Darwin Awards.
I don't know if you saw the quote I put up from my mother earlier.
Yes.
She sent me a message out of the blue. I said, the jet ski twats are out being twats. Yeah. So,
Yeah,
my
so
apologies for the
to finish
interruption.
off-
They've turned the engine off. We're good.
To finish off the shameless plug for my book.
Please do.
Yeah, November 28th, it officially launches via Troubadour Publishing. It'll be available on Amazon, WH Smith, Waterstones, and in bookshops.
Wonderful. There's an ebook version too.
And there will be an ebook version, and that will be available before November 28th.
So-
It has an official launch date. And I am now also going to be writing articles for Messy Mind on Medium.
Which I can personally vouch are excellent and are really, really well written. If you're in for a sort of, you're the kind of person like me who is interested in criminology and psychology and things like that, then it's an absolutely fantastic and very well written, I must say.
Yeah, I thoroughly recommend Nikki Kay, who my daughter quoted, and her writing was very helpful to her. So she's the editor and also author of Messy Mind.
Yeah.
And her articles are absolutely brilliant, painfully honest, painfully upfront.
Which is what we need
about these
sometimes.
things. Yeah.
And Natasha's written some short stories, you mentioned.
Yes, they're only available in Denmark, but they're part of a short story
All right, we
compilation.
might have Danish viewers, you don't know.
Short story compilation that is used in Danish and Finnish schools.
Okay, and that's Natasha Fjelrad.
Yes.
Right, perfect. Okay, there we go.
And who knows, maybe we'll be, I'm hoping to write a second book, which will be about sailing, the lessons it's taught me that I use during my therapy, and also showing the life that you can then build, which I will write with the 2-year circumnavigation as the timeline for it, and share
I'm already excited for that.
Me
my
too.
travels
and
and experiences.
You will find us out there at some point as well, so I hope you find an effusive chapter where you say, I entered an anchorage and came across a small white yacht with 2 naked people on deck, and I was very confused as to what was going on.
Yes.
Then I realised these people had interviewed me before. Yes.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you very much, Paul. We really appreciate that. That's a pleasure to talk to you as always, and I'm sorry I outdrank everyone while this interview was happening. Realised I hadn't topped you up in a while, and I've been sitting here swigging the rum. So,
That's absolutely fine. You're fully
Thank
allowed.
you very
Thank you.
much.
Cheers.
cheers.
Cheers.